Welcome, welcome, welcome. You're in the right place at the right time. Today is Tuesday, and we got a really great show lined up for you guys today. I've got a whole new guest for you, a book author, community activist, and I'm so looking forward to hear him talk about all of the things that he does for the community and the youth. So before we get started, as always, I have to give a shout out to my mentor, Dr. Hunt. Dr. Hunt and I have been traveling in life together for 30 plus years. And out of those 30 plus years, he has been a blessing to both me and my family, as well as I have been a blessing to both him and his family. And one of the reasons why I talk about my mentor so much is because I want people to get a mentor, somebody that they can go to in their time of turmoil and conflict, somebody that can steer them in the right direction and keep them on the right path. So I talk about it a lot because I want you guys to get somebody in your life and discover how invaluable it is to have a mentor in your life. You gotta have one. You just can't go through life all by yourself without having somebody that can be a blessing to you and your family. And then once you find one, then I want you to get a show so that you can shout them out. All right? So that's a must. All right, so I want to invite you guys to go over to my website, ask-dr-ron.com. When you get over there, I want you to first notice that you can watch the show directly live from the website. Right there on the website, you'll be able to see everything live in real time, okay? So definitely do that. And then I want you to notice that I have several advertisers. Without my advertisers, I would not be able to do what I'm able to do. So I need you to support them, and I'm going to talk about a few of them right here. RRJ Web. RRJ Web will help you develop any type of website that you want. And if you've got a broken website, he can help fix your broken website. So you want to reach out to RRJ Web so that they can help you with your web solutions. Any type of problem you have dealing with websites, he can help you. And he can also help create those ideas in your head so that you'll be able to bring them to the World Wide Web. Also, Synergy. Synergy brings solar panels to your home or business. If you're interested in conserving energy and saving money, Synergy is the place to go. Give them a call. Tell them, look, I want you to do an energy assessment on my home, and they can help you figure out how to save money on your energy bill. Also, Port Again Sam. Port Again Sam has been with the show for 15 plus years. He brings in some of the best wines and spirits from all over the world. And I tell you, once you have tasted a wine tasting with Port Again Sam, you won't go anyplace else. I tell you, it is the best wine or spirits you can get. I love the cognac myself. So he's got a new inventory in. Now's the time to reach out to him so you can try out what he's got going on. Schedule a wine tasting today. Also, Prince Hunter Financial Group. Now, if you want to understand how the stock market works or the Forex market, you want to get in touch with Prince Hunter Financial Group so they can help you understand what's going on with the stock market. The stock market, there's millionaires made every day on the stock market. So you definitely want to try and find out as much information that you possibly can so that you can use that information to help you. Now, there's a special promotion going on with the Prince Hunter Financial Group. 4 free classes. 4 free classes. If you're interested, reach out to them. Tell them you heard about it on the Ask Dr. Ron show and you're interested in the 4 free classes. Okay? And he will help you set you up with your classes so that you can learn the beginning phases of what you need to know. So, like I said before at the introduction, we got a new guest on the show today. Lamar B. Scates is here, and he is here to tell us all about what he does and what he has done. And I'm so excited to have him on the show. If you remember Reven introduced me to this young man a couple of weeks ago, and I'm so excited to hear all the things about him on today. So welcome to the show. I cannot hear you. You must have hit the mute button. Hello? There you go. Now I can hear you. Welcome to the show. Let's start over again.
Thank you, brother. Thank you for having me. Yeah, I called Brother Rev, and then he's like, man, let me put you on the phone with this good brother, Dr. Ron, man. Got a good show platform. He's actually getting ready to come on your show. So,
Yep, absolutely. That was the day he was coming on the show. Yep, absolutely. Yeah. So let's find out who Lamar B. Scates is. Let's talk about yourself. What do you do? What is it? Who are you? What provoked you to be all that you are?
Oh, yeah, we could get into it. I started off, I'm a product of a single parent household raised by my mom. My grandmother rest peacefully. My grandmother played a large factor in my life. But my mother put me in different programs with like different men and showed me how to be a man. So it kind of like rubbed off on me. I eventually become a camp counselor in high school. Product of special ed. I couldn't write a full paragraph until I was in 5th grade, and I was in special ed for 7th to 12th grade. So my mom provided me with like the vital resources that I needed as far as like academically to help me be the most successful. And then I would go on to eventually from camp counseling into violence prevention, different things of that nature. I would graduate from Western Illinois University in 2013. And then I would move to DC and work for the program City Year, which is focuses on the high school dropout crisis. And then my child mentor that passed away shortly after my uncle in 2000, I think it's 21, introduced me to the work. And I just started as a camp counselor, and then as I got older and started doing more of the work, she put the pressure on me to start like my own. So that's what happened with me starting a growth men's wellness program, LLC, different things of that nature. But I will go on and do a lot of different things within the education sector, from nonprofit to after-school programs, summer programs, third-party nonprofits working inside the school, different things of that nature with mentorship and different things of that sort.
So let's back up a little bit. You say you lived in D.C.
Yes, sir.
How long were you in D.C.?
I was in D.C. for 2 years, about a little 2 years, a year and a half, to give take.
Now, they talk about, Chocolate City being a very rough place to be in. So were you, you got a chance to see coming from Chicago, was it similar to being in Chicago, different? You had a great adjustment you had to make being in D.C.?
Yeah, for me, it was like D.C. but I think it's a little bit more expensive than Chicago. It's a tad bit more expensive, but it's not that much more. But they had this thing called taxation without representation. So they don't have an alderman. They got what you call the ANC representative, which is more so like a city council person. They sit on the committee, but this person is supposed to represent the interests of the people, but not necessarily they don't represent the interests of the people. If that makes sense.
Yeah, because they're not. They
But
don't have.
and they
They're
not
not. Yeah,
funnel
they're not a city.
resources
Yeah.
into the community. And DC
Yeah.
isn't a city. It's more, I would say,
Right.
more so like an enclave.
Right. Yeah. They've been trying to get representation as a city so that they can do more, but they won't let them go.
I don't even think they got they got all the Congress and Senate there, but they don't have nobody from like DC sitting on Congress or the Senate. Like Virginia
not at all.
representative, Maryland has a representative, but DC don't.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
But the White House is
And
there.
yeah, they don't get nothing. That's just the seat of government, and it's crazy. It is so insane that they say it's a lot of criminal activity that goes on there, and I ain't talking about in on Capitol Hill. I'm talking about they still call it Chocolate City.
Yeah, I mean, to a certain extent, it's not that no more. It's a lot of gentrification. A lot of
Okay,
Europeans have moved. A lot of different other cultures have moved in, but it's really like it's like in most metropolitan cities, like the Arabs control the convenience store. The
gotcha.
Chinese and the Asians they control the hair nail tech
Okay,
industry, different things like that. So it's
yeah,
like they had the same issues. It's just not the same support. When they was doing the like the gentrification thing, when they first did that, DC is like the testing ground for a lot of things that they implement in other places. So like they had something I can't remember what kind of card it was. It was like a smart trip card. Smart trip card is the same thing with Venture is. So it was like a test run. Even with like
gotcha.
the tax on bags and sugar. They was doing that in DC. That was 2015.
Okay,
2013, 2014, they was charging $5, 5 cents per bag.
I was gonna say $5, boy.
I was
Ooh,
like
they was gonna
five
make
cent,
people.
like 5 cents. Then it went up to say it went up like 2 cents every year I was there. So you better off
Wow.
keeping your bags and recycling them.
Yeah. So now you worked in community organizations in DC as well.
Yeah, somewhat. I wasn't really that active with it. I did more so like educational stuff, more so I guess more so police brutality, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I do a lot of advocacy around ending mass incarceration and fighting against the school to prison pipeline. So that's what a bulk of my work is done is
Yeah.
in advocating for primarily black males.
So now going back a little bit further, now in the Chicago area, you say you left and went to which college again?
I went to Western Illinois University, that's
Western.
Macomb,
Okay.
Macomb, Illinois.
Yeah, Macomb. Yeah, I've been there before. Now, when you went there, is that what you studied while you were in school? Was community organizing?
Nah, it kind of community organizing kind of found me, but it was a lot of issues with the lack of resources for Black students on campus. So that was a lot of my advocacy work on campus was providing mentor for other students because I was a little bit older when I went in, but I went to a couple of schools. I went to Harold Washington College about a year and a half in downtown Chicago. Then I went to Russ College RUST College. It's a historically black college and university in Holly Springs, Mississippi. So Holly Springs, Mississippi, for those who don't know, is the hometown of Ida B. Wells. So it's about 45 minutes outside of Memphis, Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just, I guess it was like most of the HBCUs, was started by churches. If you go into the history of it, but basically it was a place for us to get our education as black people in this country.
Right.
Historically, black colleges, university, and it's a rich history. It's a lot of I touched on it briefly, but like most of the HBCUs receive white funding, and most of them don't have black studies programs. I think Howard University is the only HBCU with an African studies program, but that's at the graduate level. Most of the African American studies programs are at predominantly white institutions. So that's a conversation me and a couple people just having. Like can it be seen as African American studies if somebody outside the race teaches it? So those are conversations that I'm having, especially with like the conversation about around critical race theory. That's the latest thing. Like who? That's always been my thing. If you're not a part of the Black culture or African American culture, I don't think you should be teaching African or African American studies.
Now, let's talk about that a little bit. Now, first, I want to talk about the cultural difference from being in the South. You say you went to school in Mississippi and then from the North. I know you had to adjust greatly because it's a whole lot slower in the South, and what their awareness about things that's going on is a whole lot different in the South than it is in the North. So, how did you adjust to that?
Yeah, it's a different like I'm from born and raised in Chicago, so like we deal with racism head on. But in the South, it's different. Like even I had a family reunion where the team I was in high school at the time, but our parents wanted us to stay in Chicago based off because we didn't know the culture or the code of the South. So like if you say they won't even acknowledge you, like if you're in the room, like
Hmm.
even and some of them blatantly like just show you that they not racist, but in Chicago, like Chicago shows you something different. Like they take your money, they be friendly with you, but they won't say that they flat out don't like they
Right.
just right. But in the South, it's blatantly like in your face. I met a young guy on. I was going on a trip to Dallas, if I'm not mistaken, on the bus, and I asked him. He's from Alabama. I was like, what's more racist, the South or where you from, or Chicago?" He said Chicago's race more racist than his hometown in Alabama. He's like, cause in the South, you know that white people don't like you, but he's like in the North in Chicago, they're not gonna say that they won't. They'll be in your face, they'll befriend you, different things like that, but they'll do things that's like it's more subliminal. It's more like subconscious. So if you're not aware of it subconsciously, you just think it's normal.
Yeah. Yeah. They don't like us.
South, but in the South,
Yeah.
they ain't mug you. They look at you funny. They even bold enough to even come up to you and even. I even had one that I had a conversation with. I was on a radio platform with white nationalists. This was like when I was first got into like consciousness and pro-blackness and different things like that. But the guy called. He had followed. I'm banned from social media. I'm shadow banned and censored online now. But I was on a podcast that on the Wake Up Radio, and the white nationalist he called in, and me and him had a conversation. He was like, "We got the same belief. Ooh, I'm a nationalist. Ooh, I believe in protecting mine, like you believe in protecting yours." He's like, "Honestly, I wish it was more African American people like yourself that
Hmm.
in that same philosophy." He's like, "I believe we should be separate." Because like integration put us a lot of back, and I talk about it in my book, Blood on the Academic Algebra. But I talk about Brown versus the Board of Education, the component of integration, how that set us back. Like it was a time where they would let us integrate into the schools, but they wouldn't let black people, black educators work inside of the integrated schools. You barely could even get a job as a janitor. Um,
Right.
and it's like that now. Well, it's not a lot of black men like myself inside of the school. Like you either gotta be a security guard or a janitor, or if they do let you, it'll be more like a disciplinarian, but it won't be like you don't see too many black male educators inside of public schools, and this is around the country. Um, but I didn't
Yeah.
see my first black male teacher until I was a junior in high school. I probably seen him before that, but the teacher that woke me up was my African American history teacher, and it was an honors class. It wasn't like a regular class. Mr. Ray,
Yeah.
his name was Mr. Ray. He had an afro. He had a pick in his head. Had a dashiki. But that was when I got introduced to the autobiography of Malcolm X. So I'm like 16, 17 years old at this time. So that was the thing that sparked it for me. Like my mother would put like different cartoons and break down stuff for me, but it was the teacher that I had in high school that like really sparked that for me and woke me up. I had no idea what black nationalism was. and I would go on this journey because I didn't have that many. I would have to find mentors as I go along. But it's a lot of old guard in the like African Center or conscious movement that don't want to step back and let the next generation come in. And what I'm doing now, I'm teaching the next generation to find whatever their niche is, or it could be a trade. It doesn't necessarily have to be college. Like trade school is always, you can always make money. And the college is the only thing with college is it's gonna put you in debt if you don't know how the game works. So if you're not using it to your advantage, but I always encourage young people, if you do want to go to college, go get you a trade first. Then, if you want to go to college, then go learn how to network, learn the business acumen, learn how to interact with different admin, different, because you're gonna have to work with people that you don't get along with, and that's something that I learned a lot in college, but also in high school too, with like group projects and stuff like that. You're not gonna get along with everybody, but you have to figure out how to use it to your best advantage. Use it to make you become the best version of yourself. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Let's talk about black nationalism a little bit more. You know, you brought it up, and that's what you identify yourself as. So some people in the audience may not understand, you know, the philosophy of a black nationalist. So would you please kind of give them an ideology of what it is and what's around it?
Absolutely. So black nationalism, well, it's not going to be the same for the time that we're in, but during the time of the black nationalism comes out the philosophy. If I could say, Martin Delaney was the, you could say, the father of that, and it's like a mixture. Well, father Martin Delaney was a black soldier, but and during the Civil War. But he was the one that came up with the idea for what pretty much the idea of what Pan Africanism is about. But Black
Mm-hmm.
nationalism is like a branch of the tree of Pan Africanism. So Pan Africanism is unity of Africans across the globe. So it could be United States, Caribbean islands, South America, North America, of course, United States, Canada, Africa, UK, uh, anywhere in the world where black people are, pretty much. But black
Mm-hmm.
nationalism is more like buying black, uh, went, but for instance, buying black clothes. So supporting black fashion designers. What else? Black-owned restaurants. Then now they got it where they got black tour companies and black-owned hotels and lodges and different things like that. So being able to support black people any way possible, but it's more so you looking at the economics behind it. And we have $1 billion net worth as a collective, but we don't use it in that manner or that magnitude. So it's like to rotate and keep unity amongst black people, but it's like supporting black businesses, supporting black schools, African center schools, supporting people that's doing something that's relatively towards the liberation and freedom of black people.
So that sounds a lot like what Minister Farrakhan speaks about. Is that we don't need to be, you know, deeply embedded in the white community and white businesses supporting them and won't support ourselves.
Yeah,
You know, we need to have our own
Lamar was
schools.
the one that really created the model for us. So Nation of Islam is not the same as what it was, but the tradition of the NOI, the Nation of Islam, they had their own hot clinics, they had their own restaurants, they have their Muhammad University, they got Salam, the restaurant on 79th Street. They had their own newspaper, their own media. Also, of course, the books, Message to the Black Man, How to Eat to Live. What else? The Rise and Fall of America, like those type of, those type of things. It's not the same as what it once was, but the history of it. Then you branch off, and then you got different. You got one sector of the NOI, which is the Nations of the Gods and Earth, also known as the Five Percenters. Um, and then
So was that a big influence to the ideology that you have now, or
NOI has somewhat of an influence to me, but as I've gotten older, it's like a different school of thoughts. Marcus Garvey with the UNIA, I just spoke at an event For them, that was Saturday. They do an annual event called the Black Power Speakathon. So I spoke on my book and a few other things. The current state of school to prison pipeline, different things like that. And then I have a lecture coming up on Saturday, September 16th at Wilson Regional Library. It's 1:30 doors open, and then the lecture starts at about 2. But the title of the lecture is called Grand Theft Auto Reality, the Prison Pipeline. So I'm going to talk about the current state of what's going on. Well, not just, I'm a basis of it is based on Chicago, but I'm talking about what's going on in the streets, how COVID had an impact on what's going on with crime and different stuff like that, with the resources that's being expended. I'm gonna talk about the what happened with Lightfoot and what's to come with the current mayor that we have, the new mayor that we have, um, and how I'm gonna touch on the Chicago Teachers Union as supposed to be for teachers, but it's a political entity at this point.
Yeah.
And the Chicago Teachers Union has now excluded a lot of black educators and getting benefits, but they have a black face as the person that's the mayor. So it's like that's an
Mm-hmm.
interesting dynamic because you don't fight and advocate for black educators, but you got a black face. You know,
Mm-hmm.
being y'all representative, your political figure, your political representation.
Mm-hmm. So, so do you think that your generation has a message for the young generation that's out there now?
Ironic, it's crazy. I will still be considered in this younger generation, or I'll be 35 in November. But me, I like to step back and let the youth do their thing. But I want to be able to be that coach and that advisor for them. But I've done my share. I put the work in. Well, I can sit back and come up with the strategy and just coach and guide the young people to. If they, I don't really protest like that. I never was one for protest, but for some young people that want to protest, coaching them. And then this always what I tell people. Like my days of organizer, I'm not gonna go out there if I don't have any bail money or legal money. Because a lot of these organizations, what they won't tell you is if you get locked up, you're on your own. If you're not a member in a hierarchy. So say you participate with an organization and you a general member, but if you're not a member of high caliber or recognition in I guess the mainstream, they won't bail you out. But if you're in leadership, you'll get the recognition. But I've seen a lot of people that wanted to get involved, and then when they seen the politics of it, if you're not involved like on a high level of like organizing, structuring events and different things like that, then you gonna if you get locked up, they not gonna tell you they're not gonna bail you out. Or the legal fund is for the ones that's really in power, which is unfortunate that they have a guard like that. And then a lot of the leaders within these organizations are like hand selected and hand picked, based off like they connections and whatever. Not they not more so secret societies, but it's like not what you know, it's who you know.
All
If
right.
that makes sense. So if you
So,
pull
so,
up, like say for instance, your father or your grandfather was an activist, they probably more than likely would bring you into the fold. But somebody like myself, like I find a way to get in the room, but like it's not too many people like me that know
mm-hmm.
different people or rub elbows with people. Like I know people in entertainment, music, media, politics, different things like that. I could be way further than I am, but something I'm not gonna do. I'm not gonna sign my name in blood just for the sake of a dollar.
Mm-hmm. So, you said something that's kind of interesting. So, do you feel like organizations like the NAACP are as effective on the streets now as they might have been at one point in time?
At one time before cameras and all that, I've never really looked at protesting as a effective means of getting something done. For me, it's always been like what we doing to push programming or what we doing to push policy. It's like it's a lot of advocacy allegedly in the streets, a lot of word semantics and different things like that, but there's nothing effectively being done. Like for instance, Malcolm X said it best though. They don't most people in the white community, the athletes, the celebrities, uh, the different people aren't the ones that speak up. You got your experts to speak up on your behalf. So in our community, in the black community, it should not be a professional athlete unless he has the consciousness or that mindset for it, like a Muhammad Ali or or Jim Brown or somebody of that magnitude. So I'm just using examples from historical history. If they aren't of that magnitude of a Muhammad Ali to speak out, well, he was willing to lose everything he had to stand on principle. It's not a lot of that, but like the scholars should be the ones that speak up. Like for instance, I'm a scholar. That's one of my my actual trades. But I'm influenced by Dr. Amos Wilson and Dr. John Henry Clark and guys from that cloth, Steve Coakley. Um, but one thing I learned from them, I wanted to build something of my own. Like they did a lot of teaching and lecturing. Amos Wilson had a print shop, but other than that, I don't know any other black scholar that had their own really institution. So that's something the narrative that I'm trying to change as far as like intellectual. Yeah, we do the work we talk, but we also can build as well. It's a book called Nation Building. Uh, by can't remember the brother name, but you could just type nation building in. But it talk about African centered schools, but it talk about you can't have a nation without a military structure, you can't have a nation without a school structure, and you can't have a nation without
Right.
a spiritual system. So I created a diagram in my book called the Miseducation Industrial Complex.
Yeah.
But I
So
talked about the education, religion, education, media, and military. So what happens is, and I'll break it down further in my next book. But what happened is when people come to colonize, I just use Europe. Arabs came first with Islam, and then Europeans came with Christianity. So they come in, they send the priest in or the preacher, what have you. He come in and try to get you to get on code with the religious system, but the religious and the school system is synonymous with each other. So if you want to get a code with that, they'll come in and use either the police force or the military. So most schools, when students get out of line, they call so with the academic auction block. So what I did with the academic auction block, I created a diagram for the school system and the prison system. So the principal is the warden, teachers are the corrections officer, classroom is the cell block, and school suspension and special education and solitary confinement. The cafeteria is the mess hall, and the playground is the yard. And it's a company called Airmark. So Airmark creates uniforms for sports and school uniforms, but they also do prison uniforms and school uniforms as well. And then they also provide the food for prisons and schools. So the same food that's served in the prisons is the same food that's served inside the schools.
so you mentioned the excerpt in the book. So this is your first book.
Yes, yes. This is the final revision of it, but I done like this about the probably fifth revision, but I finalized it with it, turned it into a curriculum book because a lot of parents was asking because it was a big school strike for Chicago Public School in 2020. So in 2020, parents, I was about to write a whole curriculum book, and then somebody on my team was like, "No, I'll just condense it and just put some diagram and some images in there." And then when I did that, that was the thing that was able to get me to get more, recognition for the book and different things like that. And then I have a book exhibition at Soulful Chicago Book Fair on this Saturday, August 5th. From I believe it's like 11, it's like 10 to 7 or 11 to 7 or something like that. And I have like a booth where I'm talking about my book. A book exhibition is not really, you could sell a book, but it's really to get more word out about your book. Is the purpose of a book exhibition. So having word about the different programs I'm doing, different things of that nature. But let
Okay.
me see.
So so you got three revisions of this book and a workbook.
Yeah, well, it's just I just use this as the actual
Okay, as the actual book.
Yeah.
Okay, and you take your book as a training tool or an educational tool when you deal with young people from what ages to what ages?
I've taught all the way from pre-K all the way to college, but I work with,
Okay.
so now I'm trying to reach the adults if I can, other educators,
Mm-hmm.
um, administrators, different things. And then I primarily work, but I just want to teach our people how to deal and navigate through this system, um,
Okay.
and
So
deal
when you say the system, you're talking about the educational system or the
more so the educational system because that plays a
okay.
factor in life pretty much. Most of the people that I know that's a product of the school to prison pipeline, most of
Mm-hmm.
these that start getting locked up in elementary school, that's been the bulk of their elementary high school. That's been the bulk where most of their life has been spent. Then
Okay.
me, I'm sharing not only my stories and things that I've seen, but I'm sharing stories of other, the voice of the voices. So the book is in Africa, overall from the time that I published it, in Africa, UK, Germany. It's all over the world at this point. It's inside of prisons. I had a good friend of mine. He bought like 50 books. He's a former. Did some time, but he sent 50 different inmates my book.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had a brother that was a political prisoner at the. He still is, Daryl Craig. But he had his team of people bought. And what I found out what they do in prison when they get a book, they got access to photocopiers now. So when one person get a copy of it, they can make photocopies of it. So what's been going on inside the prisons is they've been making photocopies of my book and then shipping the book to mailing the book to another prison. So it's getting
Mm-hmm.
spread around within the penitentiary system in America, but also it's getting spread through like different educators. And I do a lot of work with violence prevention and gang intervention. So a lot of street cats. Like sometimes if I see a young man that's on his way, I intervene. This was a few years back, but I stopped like 5 youth from jumping on this old cat that was like being disrespectful, but I intervened because I knew him. And I was like, yo, nah, don't do that with Walter Bam. So it was like 4 or 5 of them. So I gave to the two to the one dudes, and then the other it was like two sets of twins. It's like a set of twins. And then I just gave them one copy. So I give out free copies every now and then, but most of the proceeds go um towards programming.
So your book works in conjunction with the community organization skills that you do.
Yes,
So you have a youth organization. Let's talk about that a little bit. What's the name of it?
growth, men's wellness program.
Okay,
So
and you are mostly in the community helping young people that come to you for help, or how do you seek them out?
yeah, I do. I primarily try to stick with black male population, so it's more so. I would say more so of research. I guess you could say research institute that does like consulting work with like I like to do work with schools, churches, anybody that's looking for a resource, mentoring programs, different things of that nature. But what I do is even I work with men as well. So primarily I look at my analytics online. So primarily the population that I reach is like mainly like 25 to 34 is the age range that I reach. But I do reach as young as 13 all the way to like men in their 50s. So my primary population is men and black male youth and black boys. But I do work with the community as a whole. But primarily, that's where my best work is done with the mentorship, with the rites of passage, just providing guidance for the next generation of
So
young black
so
men.
so what would you call a success story? What do you expect for a person to take out of dealing with you?
I'll share a story. I just had a book signing on the 15th. So I ran into one of my former students I used to teach at. I used to work at Freedom Home Academy International. It's a private, independent African Center homeschooling programming. And Nkrumah International Academy is a high school. But one of my students now, after learning from me and being in my class, he has his own film production company. I believe he's 23 now. So
Mm-hmm.
I was teaching him from 14 to about 17, 18. and he did an internship with one of the parents at the school that has his own film production company that's worked with the likes of Floyd Mayweather and several other boxers and different things like that. And he learned these skills. He's actually filming his first documentary next year in 2024 in Egypt. So that's one of many success stories that I have. What he actually started his own business, and he's younger. He's like 23, maybe 24, between 21 and a little under 25. But for him to be like 22, 23, he has his own film company.
Mm-hmm.
And then he
So,
just actually, I just paid him to film my first online course. So
okay. So I got to revisit something you said earlier when you mentioned critical race theory. I talk about it a lot. I believe that the blood of our ancestors cries out for us to never let what they went through come out of history. And I know some political figures, like that fool from Florida,
mm,
and other political people want to try and sweep under the rug what happened to indigenous people of this country and to us, but yet they keep talking about the Holocaust
mhm.
like it just happened yesterday. So, with you being an educator on the level of trying to help people understand that we have to make a difference going forward and not fall back into what was allowed to happen to us at one time, how important do you think critical race theory is in this climate, in what we're doing, in this day and age?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you gotta look back before you go forward. So you gotta know what Dr. John Henry Clark had a mentor, Arthur Schomburg. His center is now new part of New York Public Library, but he left the South in Alabama to go to New York. And he asked the guy to mentor him. He's like, "What you know about like the oppressor, the enemy?" And he was like, "I don't really know nothing. Like I've dealt with racism, but I really don't know nothing." He's like, "Until you go study your enemy, no matter how much black culture or history you study, you won't be able to understand yourself until you understand your natural born enemy." So for instance, me in the school system, I know how that works, so I teach other people how to do it. But for me, the conversation of reparations keep coming up. So you can't expect the people that have made billions of dollars off of us, off the backs of our ancestors, to give it to us. So we're gonna have to get it in other ways. Like for instance, like with me, with learning how to business work and LLCs and nonprofit work, you have to go get that through like grants and other means. As far as like if you want to get money off of them, it's a way to get it. You just gotta know how to gain. What it's a book called, I think it's called The Grand Chessboard by Krasinski. I can't remember his first name, but he's like advisor to like presidents or something. But I feel these are some things that we need to learn as a people. A lot of black people don't know how to play chess. They don't know how defend themselves, just like for self-preservation purposes. What else? We don't know how to swim either. So like basic survival techniques and some things like that's something that I teach the next generation and teach our people in general. But these basic skills, you need to learn these basic skills just to cope in life. It's not even about blackness or have you. Like white people, European people are teaching their children how to survive at like 5, 6 years old. They're teaching their children when they're of age to walk and think and have psychomotor skills. If they're of age, they teach them how to use and how to use a gun if something does happen. You know what I'm saying? Most countries, even we could even look at the Iraq or Iran war. A lot of the child soldiers know how to use gun at a certain age. It's like a rites of passage. Like even in Ukraine, like they don't let the boys join the military at some point. In the rites of passage program, for instance, in Africa culturally, in order to become a man in African culture, you have to go kill a lion or something. I'm just using that as an example. And you can't come back until you kill that lion. Like Marcus Garvey, his father put him in the ditch, deep in the ground, and pulled the ladder up. It's like it's gonna be your way to figure out as a man how you gonna figure out how to help you get yourself out of this hole. Even though I put you in the hole, you got to figure out different things in life. You can't blame certain people as a people. I used to do this. I'm guilty of this myself. When I had what I call pro-black rage, I was blaming white people or blaming the system for everything. But at the end of the day, it does go back to yourself, right? So how can
Mm-hmm.
yourself benefit? You can't, if your household is messed up, you can't go out in the community and do work. If your children messed up, you can't be out here trying to educate other people's children. You can't step up and be a stepfather to somebody else's children when you're not even being in your own children's life. Those are like some basic examples that I could use, like based on life.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Like the system does play a factor, but it's certain things like it. I see a lot of. It's a lot of. I got this essay I'm working on in my next book called "Parental Miseducation of the Child." So the children of this era are the products of the same miseducation that their parents are receiving. So children of my age and that's like 30 something in their 40s were products of maybe like the crack epidemic. But then you got this era now of the opioid crisis. Fentanyl is the new thing. The closest thing is worse than crack. Fentanyl, you got Xanax, you got all this, but the same stuff that's in like these pills and stuff on the street is the same thing that these that's in these special ed meds. And I'm fortunate enough that my mother will advocate for me to get 90% because in special ed you only get a small percentage of what you're supposed to be learning. But my mother advocated for me to get like 70, 80, 90%. And most of all, she wanted me to get as close to 100% as I could. But I seen the impact on the drugs that had on certain youth, even in the schools now, that they got the same symptoms of adult fiend on the street or somebody that popped a pill or shot something up in their veins.
Mm-hmm.
The same thing in the street drugs now is the same thing that's inside these schools in the drugs or even in the food or the water. Like I went to Flint. That was 20, I believe 16. But
Mm-hmm.
comrade of mine, street cat, we ended up buying we had people donate bottles of water. So what happened was we got 2,000 bottles of water and we had 80 gallons of water. So we rented a minivan and we went down to Flint and literally you could not, the water was brown. I've
Mm.
seen this visibly with my own eyes. Like we had to wash our hands and wash our face and brush our teeth with bottled water. Like some of the bottled water we bought down, we had to use some of that water to even
That's
bathe.
crazy. And they don't care. The government don't care. Not at all.
And then they
Not
locked
not
up the mayor of, he was the former mayor of Detroit, Kwame Kilpatrick. They had
mm-hmm.
locked him up for advocating for Flint, but he was sending money the same way that these white politicians give contracts to like their friends in the mob and construction companies and different things like that. Politics is pretty much controlled by the mob anyway.
Yeah.
But he was going against the grain and he was like, nah, you can't help your people. Like, if you do, it's gonna be a severe consequences. So he just got pardoned, I believe, by Trump. But they gave him 28 years in prison.
Wow. That's crazy. I gotta ask a question. You're close to your ear on the ground, what's going on in the streets, you're dealing with young people. What is the message that the young people are trying to send to the establishment by gathering in the downtown areas, being disruptive of what's going on in the city?
They got the what is it? They call them something. It's some like it's some kind of party they call. So basically, they get in the streets, they play their music. But think about this: the reason why a lot of this happen is really no. I can have only an impact to a certain extent, but for me is it's no structure or man on the streets like it was at one time. Like the streets one time was structured, even though it was street organizations. You had to get a okay to do certain stuff or even politic in certain areas. Like it was bad for business. Like for instance, with the violence going on, most they would have meetings. Like if violence going on, it was beef between two certain sets or blocks. It was a time where they was like, "Oh, hey, bro, y'all got to dead that violent stuff, man. We trying to get money." Type thing. That's what it was all about. Provide being able, even though it was negative, the underworld, it was providing and fun. They were still funneling money in. So most, for instance, they would do a lot of the people street cats. They would do clothing giveaways, back to school stuff, different things like this. This like I'm not sure how far I go back, but I was brought up in the '90s. So as I got I wasn't. Never ran, never gang bang or anything like that. But I have a lot of friends that do. But at one point, it was a certain structure to it. It was a point where women, elders, and children didn't get touched.
Yep.
But now it's to the point where you got 18, 19, 21 year olds leading the set. Then it's like the carjacking is an epidemic. Like Grand Theft Auto is a game. It's no. It was not. Well, it it's done. I feel like the game Grand Theft Auto has done more damage than any other video game. I think ever.
Wow.
Like, and this is my first time like saying this publicly. Like, from my mother would never let me play like shooting games or games with violence, or they even watch things with violence in it, or even like play around with toy guns. They had this thing called Orby guns. And I'm just getting hip to what Orby gun is. Well, Orby gun has like these water pellets, but the guns that they have the Orby gun for the kind of gun look like real guns.
Mm.
There was an instance where off-duty corrections officer killed, I think, a 17-year-old because he shot either a pellet gun or Orby gun at him. But in my head, I was thinking, just logically playing both sides. Is this correction officer wrong for thinking that it was a real gun?
Right. Yeah, he had to defend himself.
And then
So you think the young people on the streets are just out of control and nothing to reel them back in?
they don't have the everything goes back to not only the school, but the school can only do so much. Like in my position with me working at school, I can only do so much. But it has to go back to the structure of the community. But the home, the mother is supposed to be the first teacher of the child. The mother holds the baby in her womb for 9 months, is nurturing. But this child is seeing different things, even through the pregnancy. So it goes about what food you put into your body. It goes about what type of, not just food, what you put into your body in general, whether that's physical, whether that's mental, whether that's spiritual, what have you. So if you put negative things into your body, say for instance, we could use a baby that's like a crab baby or a fentanyl baby. If the mother's addicted to drugs or alcohol or smoking tobacco or anything of that those type of products, what do you think the outcome of that child is going to be? It's going to be some birth defects. Then
Yeah.
they're not fully cognitively developed. Then think about if they've been socialized by negativity or toxic things in society, whether it's physical abuse, it could be sexual abuse, it could be psychological abuse. And then let's not talk about the food and the water, but the music, social media. It's all these different underlying factors that I see on the day to day. Well, I see children at 7:45 in the morning eating Takis
Eating
and
what?
drinking Mountain Dew
Eating what?
early in the morning.
Now I say eating what?
Takis. So Takis, it's a hot chip. So they
Oh.
got different blue, red, green.
Okay.
They even got a Takis that's not hot anymore. It's like a Cheeto kind of Taki.
I got you. Okay.
But like
Never heard of it. Yeah.
they eating all this hot stuff and junk food, Skittles, M&Ms with like this red 5 and yellow 5 and all this different stuff in there. And then it's got to a point where I'm working with boys and they can't even really do no physical activity. Like no
Wow.
push-ups. No, they're struggling with actual regular push-ups, struggling with sit-ups, struggling with even doing a basic jumping jack. The
Wow.
only students that I have that's able to keep up like with me, like doing physical, like of course, younger you should be able to be surpass what I'm doing. But for me to be able, I'm able to do 20. It's only a select few students that could do 20 push-ups straight, and then I do from time to time I do diamond push-ups. So it's like I have students that's not able physically able to compete.
Yeah, I got
Then
you.
then like even with like as black people, we don't even like two things that we really don't like as far as like dealing with nature. We don't like camping. I know a lot of black people that have never been camping, that never rode a horse, that have never been archery, that's never even gone to like the gun range or anything like that, or even been swimming. There's a lot of us that don't
Yeah.
know how to swim.
Yeah. Now look, I got to stop you. We only got like 4 minutes left in this show. Now the name of your organization is Growth Wellness. You got your email on the screen.
Let's see.
So people that want to reach out to you and get the book, find out more about what you're doing, and can support what you're doing, they can reach out to you and directly and be able to find out what they can do to support what you're doing.
Yes,
The
sir.
second thing is I want to say thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to come tell us about who you are, what you're doing at this time, and make us aware that there are some people out here doing something. I just want to thank you.
Yes, sir.
I appreciate that.
Thank
If don't nobody else say thank you, I'm gonna say thank you. Okay, and keep up the good work. Don't get discouraged. Don't get let down with no not seeing enough help.
you.
Now I always ask two questions before I end the show. The first question is, will you come back and see me again?
Absolutely. Like I was just getting started.
I know. We got so much more to talk about.
Sir.
And then the second question is, I always like to ask my guests, what would you like to leave with the people before you leave today?
Um, well, I always do three things. First things first, you cannot bash the youth or talk about them if you don't have anything constructive to give them, saying that they should put the guns down or change, if you're not providing with a job opportunity or mentorship. My second thing is grab a young person and mentor them, and don't take much. I'm sure you see somebody in your neighborhood or even like on your way to passing. But I see some youth every day on my way to work. They go to a different school. And then I just start engaging with them or having conversations with them. Or if I see a youth going on the wrong path, like it don't take nothing to be like, yo, how your day going? That might brighten their day, or that even having that relationship with them might stop them from going doing something reckless. And my third thing is find a I would say organization if you don't directly get involved with, give some money to a great cause that's doing great work. Like for me, I never asked for donations, but people always ask how they can support. I was like, you could share this video when it's out, or you could share like an old video, or interview, or different things like that. Purchase a book, purchase some merch, but support somebody or some person that's doing something constructive, and then I'll give an extra credit. And lastly, support the goals and visions, the aspirations of the next generation. So if a young man wants to start his own app, provide him with the resources, or the young lady, provide them with those resources, but support them in some kind of way. Uh, Even if it's like a back to school thing, if you want to donate to somebody doing back to school thing, because a lot of people are paying out of their pocket for like these program community organizations that aren't getting funding from the city or the state. A lot of work that we're doing with funding out of our own pocket. Like,
Absolutely. Well, thank you once again, man. I appreciate all the hard work that you're doing. Keep up the great work. Stay right there while I end the show. I want to invite people out to come join me tomorrow on Street News Now. right here on this network at 12 noon. We're going to be talking about the latest news and current events that's going on in the world. I want to invite you guys out to come join me on Saturday from the desk of Dr. Ron. Come check out what's going on, see what's on my heart. And lastly, I want to thank all those that have made contributions and donations up to this point in time. Thank you so very much. And please continue to do so. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. Please subscribe, like, and share. Tell somebody. This was a great show. This young man is doing a lot of great work in our community, and we need to support him. So please tell somebody. And I look forward to seeing you guys on tomorrow. You take care, be blessed, and stay